Welcome to some new r/malicious compliance stories, where people comply to the letter, but not the spirit of a request. I hope you had a great day. Thanks for all the likes and comments on the last video. If you would like to support this channel, please hit the like button and consider subscribing if you enjoy the content. And now let's start with the first story. It's called New Manager Knows Better. I used to work for one of the top delivery companies in the UK. There was a lot less competition 15 years ago. I was very good at my specific delivery job, and I often undertook every office task from single delivery routes to maintaining the office and delivering distribution to all routes. Then, one day, in comes the new manager, and it was the cliché that you dread. You probably all have met the type. Suit slightly too big and a trainee mustache. He had just finished uni, and to his credit got himself a business degree. The problem with this company was every office around the whole country was run differently, and this poor manager was expecting every person to do things by the letter. But most of the work was done on goodwill, since we were allowed to finish for the day when we had completed our deliveries. It was creating a rut for our own backs, to be honest, but it was nice to finish earlier on lighter days. Finally, on his third day, after watching me daily and asking me why I was doing things in certain orders, I told him my delivery route was complex. It required to be done in a certain order to ensure the timed deliveries got there before 1 PM. The other delivery staff was fed their delivery materials by myself at certain times to ensure optimum delivery speeds and minimum delay. He replied, "No, it doesn't work like that." I simply stared for a bemused few seconds and said I don't understand. He wanted it by the letter today, as per company guidelines. I argued very hard against it and said he will really regret it because we won't complete. But he insisted I was wrong because it was all timed and measured. So after an exasperated 15-minute heated discussion, I did as I was told, to the letter. The 5 staff I fed deliveries to weren't happy but understood. It was like a domino effect. At 12:30 PM, we all rang in the office to report the failed timed deliveries, which he promptly freaked out about because they were strictly monitored. The subsequent enforced break times and shuffling required also left 15 to 20% of each walk unfinished, which he also now has to complete himself on top of the timed ones. He had to fill out reports for all failed 1 PM deliveries, all walk failures, and then had to call in managers from other offices to finish it all. They all finished around 4 hours late. He was not popular. The next day he came to me and asked me to show him the mechanics of the delivery route in detail, because I didn't expect that to happen if I'm honest. It was close enough to an apology for me. We actually became good friends over time, but he never questioned me when I said nope ever again. The next story is called The Opinion Page. I used to be the managing editor of a weekly community newspaper. This is the sort of paper everyone expresses contempt for, but also loves to read because it's strictly local. You are probably not going to get the latest news about the world, but you will get the scoop on the high school football game and how the team played. We won't talk to our national spokesperson, but we will talk to the mayor about plans to upgrade the library. If it doesn't have a strong local connection, we are not going to print it. This particular week, I got an 800-word opinion piece from the teachers' union. Contract negotiations are breaking down, and while I've got my reporter covering the story in the news section, our opinion pages are meant to be a community forum. If the union wants to state its position and try to persuade the community to its side, that's fine. The top of page 5 that week, I won a guest column by the union president. The paper comes out on Thursday. Predictably, I come into the office on Friday morning and there's a response from the school board. It's about 40 words long and essentially says, "We are disappointed to see the union trying to bring public pressure on negotiations like this." Attached is a note, addressed to me. Please run this as a letter to the editor next week. Skip ahead to next Thursday, when the paper goes out. There's a handful of letters to the editor about the usual topics, including one from the school board. Friday morning, I waltz into my office and there's an email dripping with snake venom. It is signed by the board president. "It's so disappointing to see the local paper taking sides in a labor dispute you should be covering impartially. We expect you to run our submission again next week, giving it the same position and prominence as you gave the union." Included were some actual vague threats of legal actions and unkind words to my boss about my unprofessional behavior, without even considering how ridiculous a 6-column layout of a 40-word statement will look under a 36-point headline. So I copied the original letter, and with just a little bit of malice I underlined the original request that I run it as a letter to the editor. It doesn't seem very reasonable to ask me to run something as a letter to the editor and then get angry when that's exactly what I do. Never heard a peep out of them about my unprofessional behavior again. The last story is called Get Your Stuff. I work for a company that sells and services point-of-sales equipment. We also usually install updated network equipment, run wiring and set up new wireless that has separate networks for both the business and guests if need be. When we go to install this equipment and get the customer set up, we have various documents for them to fill out and sign. They range from the fact that they did receive the equipment in working order to whether they wanted a guest network set up and what they wanted it to be called. One of the important areas that we have the customer initial before signing the bottom of that form is that if for any reason they decide to cancel their contract with us, we would remove all of our equipment. They would be responsible for having someone else there to hook it back up how they wanted it. Or they could pay us an extra fee to configure everything how they needed it to work without our equipment. We had just demoed and sold a system to a local health food cafe, and I was tasked with getting all of the equipment installed and set up. They did us a favor and didn't open till noon on the day we installed. When I arrived, I discussed all the things in the document for them to sign and told them if they would like to review it before signing, they could. I would start unloading all the equipment and would answer any questions they had. Like most customers, they skimmed it and then signed. So I installed the registers and credit card readers, got the internet provider to allow our router to take over, installed the wireless system, ran cables for the kitchen printers and the whole 9 yards. I even was nice enough to run an extra cable for their manager's computer, like 15 feet away, and reset all of their Nest cameras to work with the new network. So needless to say, I did a little extra for no cost as a courtesy. They had the system for about 1.5 months before one little thing wouldn't work how they wanted. We never said it would, and they got mad. They said we just needed to come to get their stuff, and that the only time we could come to get the stuff was either before 6 AM or after 7 PM when they close. We agreed, but advised them that we would have to charge them an after-hour service call, because those were well outside our service times. This went back and forth for about a month, until they got their next payment for the equipment auto-deducted from their account, because they refused to let us come during normal business hours. At that point, the call started to get more and more heated until they said I could come the next morning and their manager would be there. So the next morning I arrived at about 8:30 AM after their morning rush and found that their manager wasn't even there yet. I advised the employee what I was there to do and how that would affect them, and if they would like to call the manager first to confirm I could wait. I'm not a total monster. They called and confirmed what I was there to do, so I started unplugging our stuff. Router? Gone. Wireless network? Gone. No more network means no more accessing cameras. Phones are voice over IP, so they stopped working. Their old point of sales they reinstalled was all on wireless. Oops, no more wireless. It took all of 5 minutes to get our stuff out and I plugged everything back in how it was before. I was lucky enough not to have any customers come in until after I left. They were down for a day and a half on the internet, because they refused to call their ISP to get it configured how it used to be, because that was our job. Which it didn't help that they were the type of place that didn't take cash. How gross. Then they called and said we needed to come to hook their cameras back up how they were, and started threatening legal action if we didn't. I finally just took a picture of the form they filled out and highlighted the part they initialed and just started ignoring their calls. I think they finally got the hint and stopped calling. Never heard from a lawyer, and found out later that half the staff left because of the owner's attitude towards everything. And with that, we end today's video. Let me know what you think about the stories. On a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate the stories in today's video? I hope you enjoyed the video. If you like what I do and want to support me, please subscribe and hit the like button. I hope you have a great day. Stay safe. Bye bye.